Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Peanut Vendor. The Peanut Vendor was made in 1933 and is a really short animated film and just shows a monkey who is singing a song. This sounds cute, but I assure you, it is the stuff of nightmares. The monkey is selling peanuts and his song is about how he is only there for a limited time, so everyone should come and buy some before they go to sleep. This all seems reasonable except for the fact that this animated monkey character does not look like a monkey at all and instead looks absolutely horrifying. If you put this guy next to Jason Voorhees, I feel like I would still be more scared of whatever the heck this monkey thing is. I feel like I do not want to buy his peanuts, but I'm afraid that if I don't, he's going to come and find me. I truly didn't know that a 2-minute animated video could be this creepy, but they certainly delivered.
And in our 9th spot, we have Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends. Oh, based on the title, it sounds like it should be like a pretty, sweet, innocent cartoon, right? Well, let's look at the characters in the show. You have Bounce, this blue character with a massive smile and orange eyes with orange eyelashes. Then you have Dragon, a dragonfly with long, sharp eyelashes and blue eyes. Honestly, you gotta look at their pictures. They're pretty terrifying. But the worst character would have to be Spiderus, a white spider with a weird human head and red lips. Then you have his wife that literally looks like the devil. Like, what's with these characters? They're all terrifying looking. Moving on to number 8, we have Real Monsters. Okay, I never watched this show as a kid and I'm happy I didn't. You'll understand in a second. So this show is about a group of monsters in training. Ickis, Oblina, and Crumb are all monsters who attend a school to learn how to frighten humans. Kind of sounds like Monsters University and Monsters Inc. once I think about it. Now let's take a look at the design of these monsters. They are so creepy and you cannot convince me otherwise. So let's start with Ickis. Probably the least scary looking one. Ickis is like a little gremlin with a wide Cheshire cat smile. But his eyes turn red and his teeth turn sharp when he scares people. Then we have Oblina. She's like an evil black and white candy cane looking creature. But take a look at her beady little glowing green eyes and huge lips and mouth. Oblina is like a serpent type creature that can contort her body. She can use her teeth, lips, and tongue to scare people. Then you have the scariest one of all, Crumb. This naked looking monster. He literally has detached eyes, so he's always stuck holding them up in the air. And he's covered in hair and it just looks super disturbing. His scare tactic is to use his grossness to frighten humans. Well, they succeeded with that. So yeah, the creatures alone make this show terrifying. I would be shocked if it left a lot of kids scarred. In our 7th spot, we have the Real Ghostbusters. Yes, our classic movie had a cartoon as well. This was a 1986 show filled with terrifying monsters. If this show was still around today, you know there would be tons of moms complaining about it, saying it's not appropriate for the kids, blah blah. Okay, Karen. So let's talk about some of these creepy monsters. So up first we have Akira. This is the demon version of a Mesopotamian goddess of disease and death. She basically wants to create chaos through disease. Her appearance is disgusting with a shriveled green zombie looking face with worm type creatures for hands. Each worm has its own face with a tongue with sharp spikes on it. Akira would then infect other individuals, which causes them to get big boils on them. These boils were in fact her offspring. Then you have Vathek and his pals. Vathek is a big blob type butcher creature with a buzzsaw in his head. His friend GRIZZLY is shown with his mouth sewn shut and dentist drills for hands. And then you have Corpsicle, a big blob with no face and just hands for eyes. Moving on to number 6, we have Tales from the Crypt Keeper. I'm sure all of you 90s kids remember this show. I certainly do. Alright, so the Crypt Keeper plays the host of the show who introduces what each episode is going to be about. The series then goes on and talks about classic legends like stories of vampires, zombies, and werewolves. But a lot of the episodes have scary monsters that scare the human characters. Let's talk about the 2 most frightening episodes in my opinion. Starting off, we have the episode titled The Weeping Woman, where Camille and Mildred visit a haunted Victorian mansion. At night, they are woken up by creepy moaning and objects flying around. That's when they see the Weeping Woman, an old eyeless and toothless woman with scraggly gray hair and long black nails. The second night, the woman looks even more terrifying with red glowing eyes. She ends up chasing the girls around the house. Not to mention chasing one of the girls to the top of the roof where she almost gets pushed off to death. Then you have the other episode titled Sharon Share-alike. This is an episode about a girl named Shauna who refuses to share her toys with her little sister Katie. As a result, she hides one of her old toy dolls in the vent so her sister can't play with it. Then the doll ends up coming alive and haunting her. The episode is really creepy, with the doll coming alive and saying things like, "You're not nice, I don't like you." The doll ends up chasing her all over the house, giggling and chanting her name. Move over, Annabelle, okay? We got a more terrifying doll here. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Scooby-Doo, my favorite cartoon of all time. But I had to put it on the list just because some episodes actually gave me the creeps. So I'm sure we all know about Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and of course Scooby-Dooby-Doo, my favorite group of meddling kids that solve mysteries. Some of the villains are pretty creepy. Like the episode titled Vampire Bats and Scary Cats, where the team visits Daphne's friend Lisa and they encounter a vampire. The vampire ends up turning Lisa into one as well. When this happens, she turns and looks directly into the camera and growls. Just the image of her scary vampire face is just ingrained in my mind forever. Then you have the episode with the ghost clown, who, again, looks very creepy, and hypnotizes Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne to all do dangerous circus acts. I didn't think that they could make clowns any scarier until this one came along and manipulates and hypnotizes people. How about the episode with the phantom green ghosts and their terrifying cackly laugh? Later on in the episode, the crew finds 5 coffins, with one shaped like a dog. When they open them, it reveals some of the characters unconscious in there. I think the scariest thing is how whenever they make a ghost or monster appear, it's always like a POV zoom effect style. So it shows the monster closing in on you as they directly stare right at you. And lastly, we have the episode where the gang visits a sanatorium with a crazed doctor character with green glowing eyes. In the episode, you can literally see dead bodies under a sheet being brought in and out. Although they weren't real bodies in the end, it's still not kid-friendly. And our 4th spot, we have Courage the Cowardly Dog. Yes, I know I've talked about Courage so much on this channel, but it's freaking creepy. One of the episodes that scared me as a kid was the one titled King Ramses' Curse. That's right, the Egyptian pharaoh makes an appearance in this episode. So Eustace ends up finding and keeping an ancient Egyptian slab. As a result, he's visited by King Ramses. King Ramses just appears outside their home and he's swaying back and forth. He's like, "Return the slab." Okay, now it's funny, but back when I was a kid, it was terrifying. That alone could just send shivers down your spine. Then you have the episode Freaky Fred, where Mariel's cousin Fred comes into town to visit. Fred looks insane with his creepy wide-mouthed smile and slanted eyebrows. What's even worse is that he has creepy inner dialogue that only the audience can hear. And it's entirely in rhymes. Let's not forget about the episode where Muriel gets possessed. Or how about the episode where that glowing white human face visits their home? All are perfect examples of how disturbing that show really was. But it's also a really good show, can't lie. In our 3rd spot, we have Martin Mystery. Another one of my favorite cartoons as a child, although certain episodes definitely scared me. So this show surrounds Martin Mystery and Diana Lombard, 2 16-year-old step-siblings that work for an organization referred to as the Center. Basically, their job is to solve cases and protect people from supernatural threats. There are multiple episodes that are completely messed up. The one I remember giving me nightmares when I was younger is the episode titled Revenge of the Doppelganger. Basically, in this episode, women are being attacked by some sort of electrical shadow that completely erases their face. In the episode, this creature attacks multiple women that all have similar features and steals their faces, leaving them looking like creepy mannequins. Or how about the episode The Nightmare of the Coven, where 3 students used a book of spells and released this witch demon thing. The witch ends up turning more of the female students into witches. They all look terrifying with their sharp teeth and green skin. And then we have the episode The Body Swappers, which is a reference to the movie The Thing. Basically, this organism creature goes around using humans as its hosts. In the episode, whoever the organism gets to turns them into big monsters with sharp teeth and long tentacles. And there are plenty of other horrifying creatures seen throughout the series that will definitely give you the creeps. In our 2nd spot, we have SpongeBob. Yes, I know you wouldn't think that this show would be on the list since it's about a cheerful little sponge, but there are numerous episodes that are quite scary. Let's start off with the episode where SpongeBob thinks he kills the health inspector, and then him and Mr. Krabs literally have to dispose of his body. which goes terribly wrong, and they just keep moving and hiding the body so that the cops don't catch them. Don't worry, turns out he wasn't dead, but it's still pretty terrifying. Or how about the hash-slinging slasher episode? When SpongeBob and Squidward work the night shift and believe they are visited by a dead fry cook with a rusty spatula as a hand. Or the episode where SpongeBob gets injected by snail plasma and slowly turns into this creepy looking snail. There are so many more episodes that I can name, like when SpongeBob gets a splinter and turns into this huge weeping red sword. The list goes on and on. The Hooky episode, oh my gosh. And in our number 1 spot, we have the show Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. This show is about terrible kids receiving cruel and gruesome punishments for their behavior. Honestly, it's a good way to scare your kids into behaving nicely. In one episode titled Death by Chocolate, it surrounds this greedy girl who we see indulging in tons of chocolate. She's also quite rude to her sister, often calling her a slave. Well, she gets instant karma as a fly ends up laying an egg in her chocolate bunny. She ends up eating a maggot, and as a result, she turns into a giant fly, in which her sister kills, and then chocolate just spews everywhere. Like, that's terrifying. She literally killed her sister. Next, we have the episode The Spaghetti Man. Basically, it's about a bunch of picky eaters who then get captured by the Spaghetti Man. The Spaghetti Man then turns the kids into spaghetti and eats them for dinner. At the end of the episode, it's implied that a family ate their own son for dinner since he got turned into lasagna noodles. And then they're shown eating the lasagna. Like, is that even considered cannibalism? I don't even know.
Number 10, we have, believe it or not, SpongeBob SquarePants. There was a study conducted and it concluded that just watching 9 minutes of the program can cause short-term attention span and learning problems in children under 4 years old. There was a lot of inappropriate jokes in the show as well. I mean, take a look at this picture right here. SpongeBob is blowing up this balloon that's actually a condom. Here is Squidward using a vacuum cleaner to clean his private areas. He's like getting pleasure from it. Here's Patrick and SpongeBob naked holding some money, clearly a prostitution joke here. And this is a well-placed boner joke.
That's it. Patrick, your genius is showing.
In our number 9 spot today, we have The Kitchen Casanova. The Kitchen Casanova was made in 1996 and was a part of Cartoon Network's What a Cartoon series. Basically, it is about a guy who is trying to prepare dinner for his date, but he is exceptionally nervous, and of course, Murphy's Law would have it that everything is going wrong. This cartoon was actually eventually pulled from the air because of the fact that at one point he accidentally slices off one of his fingers and blood goes spurting everywhere, which probably isn't an ideal image for children, but I honestly don't even think that that was the worst part. In the end, when the date arrives and he reveals the big meal he made, it is actually just the grossest and creepiest looking thing ever, and it had me feeling very glad that I was only watching a cartoon. The dinner has eyeballs, bloody bones, and a severed human foot, and a rolled up tongue that unfortunately unrolls and then twitches before being covered up again. Okay, so it's a pile of gross, not really food. I could get past that, except for the fact that they actually eat it. I just hate that so much. All in all, this whole thing is just very bizarre, and the ending leaves you with a very uncomfortable feeling. In our number 8 spot today, we have Sunshine. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. Sunshine, or Little Sun, is a show from Czechoslovakia that ran from 1979 until 1989. It is actually pretty hard to find most of the episodes that aired. There were different segments in the show and different characters, and while most of it was fairly normal for the 1980s, there's one character in the show that is well known for just being extremely creepy. I know this guy isn't a cartoon and he's actually a puppet, but I just had to include him on this list. The character's name is Radifak Plachta, which translates to something like Big Nose Blanket. This character is made up of 2 men under a blanket, and he has this super long neck. He has an absolutely terrifying voice that honestly would be suitable for a serial killer instead of a children's TV show. The TV station that ran this show has been called avant-garde for not being afraid to show a puppet that isn't pretty, but I don't think not pretty is the best way to put it. I think downright terrifying is a far more accurate description of this guy. In our number 7 spot today, we have Magic Mummy. Magic Mummy is another 1933 classic, and it starts off with two cops, Tom and Jerry, driving around in their car singing to some music that is playing, but then they hear a call that a mummy has been stolen from the local museum. Basically, a wizard has stolen this mummy so that he can revive her so that they can sing together in front of an audience of skeletons. I truly wish I could make this up, but I'm not nearly creative enough to come up with this level of content. Obviously, a chase ensues and Tom and Jerry try to recover the stolen mummy, and it's all very crazy, but finally Jerry grabs the tomb and runs off with it to return it to its rightful owners. In the end, when he arrives and opens up the tomb, he makes a pretty dark and disturbing discovery when he finds his partner, Tom, in the tomb instead of the mummy, and it seems as though Tom has passed away. There's a lot of joyful moments in this short cartoon, so it's not as terrifying as some on this list, but it still leaves you with quite an eerie feeling. In our number 6 spot today we have Help, I'm a Fish. Help, I'm a Fish is also known as A Fish's Tale and is a Danish, German, Irish film that has a pretty star-studded voice cast. The movie follows some kids who accidentally drink a potion that turns them into fish, and they've lost the antidote that will turn them back human. This is all fine and well and is actually a pretty decent kids movie plot, but there is one character in this movie that definitely adds quite a terrifying element. The villain of the movie is a fish named Joe, and Joe is voiced by the incomparable Alan Rickman, who we know knows how to play a villain. Joe ends up coming across the human antidote, but since he was only a fish before, the antidote doesn't turn him fully human and instead just gives him human-like characteristics. This transformation causes him to be this horrible fish-human hybrid creature that looks like his skin is tearing apart, and it just isn't what I'm looking for in a movie that's supposed to be a nice time. I apologize for this spoiler, but Joe meets a fatal end considering he drank this human potion underwater, and I guess when he becomes this hybrid creature thing, he could no longer breathe underwater, so that's also just a dark addition for this already creepy character. In our number 5 spot today we have Fox and Rabbit. Fox and Rabbit comes from 1935 and is mostly actually pretty pleasant, but there's one scene that is extremely dark. This short is about a child rabbit who gets sent to school by his mother. On his way to school, he walks past a carrot patch, which he doesn't know is actually a trap that has been set by a wolf. He remembers his mother told him not to be late for school, so he leaves the carrot patch, but he cannot stop thinking about it for the rest of the day. While at school, he decides to pretend to be sick and gets kicked out of school, so he returns to the patch where the wolf is of course waiting for him. I feel like this is a fairly normal children's movie plot, but the ending is what really got me. Of course, the mother ends up coming to save the day and rescue her child, and she scares the wolf off. The child sits in the mother's lap as they both watch the wolf run off scared. Both rabbits have these terrifying laughs and red eyes that scare the heck out of me, but then the mother rabbit's face quickly turns from laughter to anger as she turns the small rabbit over and begins spanking his bottom. The whole ending just leaves you feeling super uncomfortable, and it is honestly just very weird. In our number 4 spot today we have BIMBO'S Initiation. BIMBO'S Initiation is a short that comes from 1931, and it actually features an early version of Betty Boop, who has a dog's ears and nose. Basically, Bimbo is walking down the street one day when he gets pulled down below the streets by some underground secret society. Okay, cool, off to a good start with Bimbo getting kidnapped. The leader continually asks Bimbo if he wants to join the group, to which Bimbo answers no, as any sane person would, and then Bimbo is forced to go through these really dangerous events. He keeps refusing and then being put into these situations until he ultimately agrees to join this creepy cult. I feel like this one is horrifying for some pretty obvious reasons, not to mention just the vibe of this underworld society. And just remember that this was made in 1931, so it's not unlikely that some pretty shady things were going on behind the scenes on this one. All in all, this short does have a happy ending, I guess, but it is certainly mixed in with some questionable behavior. In our number 3 spot today we have The Cameraman's Revenge. The Cameraman's Revenge comes all the way from 1912 and is unlike anything I have ever seen before, which after watching it I feel incredibly grateful for. Basically, it's a bunch of bugs, and I just want to start off by making it clear that these are real dead bugs that are being used as puppets. That that little tidbit is enough to make me say no thank you, but if that's not enough to defer you, surely this strange plot will. Basically, Mr. Beetle is out on the town and looking for some companionship when he sees a beautiful lady dragonfly who he starts to flirt with. Unbeknownst to Mr. Beetle, the dragonfly's ex-boyfriend, a grasshopper who is a cameraman, sees this whole thing going down and is jealous. Well, as it turns out, Mr. Beetle has a Mrs. Beetle who hears about this infidelity from the grasshopper, but as it turns out, she is also having her own kind of adulterous experience. You really have to see this one to believe it, and the stop motion of the dead bugs just makes this whole thing something that I will never forget, but man, I wish I could. In our number 2 spot today we have CATDOG. CATDOG is actually a cartoon I can remember watching when I was a kid, and I remember it scaring the heck out of me. CATDOG is a half cat, half dog creature that gets itself into situations and has quite the time figuring everything out, considering the cat half and the dog half can't seem to get along. This is a weird premise, but it's not the strangest part of the show. There is an episode when Cat wants to brush Dog's teeth, and he crawls into his own mouth and travels through its own body to get to the dog side, where it then comes out of Dog's mouth. So now Cat is hanging out of Dog's mouth inside out with veins and muscles and everything we never wanted to see exposed. I know this was all probably just meant to be like a silly little thing, but it's actually so scary and just a lot for a child to even begin to try and comprehend. Maybe I'm just looking into it a little bit too much as an adult, but overall this show just has a very weird vibe. In our number 1 spot today we have The Devil's Ball, or The Mascot. This stop motion animated short comes from 1933 and is honestly quite a ride and a mix between fascinating and terrifying. Basically, it starts off fairly normal and fine with a stuffed dog named Duffy coming to life and then heading out on an adventure for an orange. But this isn't what we are here to talk about today. Once midnight strikes, the devil comes out of a liquor bottle, and this is when things start to get crazy. So basically now the devil is holding some kind of soiree, and things such as different creatures, vegetables, old garbage, it all begins coming to life and displaying human characteristics, and these are the guests of the ball. Over the course of the ball we see some pretty spooky things, like when the devil tries to convince one of his guests to stab someone. Duffy is kind of the saving grace of this whole thing because Duffy is actually cute and basically the only creature in this whole thing that isn't downright terrifying. All in all, the whole thing was originally 40 minutes, but it is tough to find that version, and most you will find now are a 25-minute cut. It is certainly worth a watch, but I wouldn't necessarily show this to any children unless you want them to be scarred for life.
Starting off this countdown, we have Angela Anaconda. Now, this was a Canadian-based cartoon, so I'm not sure if anyone outside of Canada got to experience this show. Lucky you if you didn't. But basically, the show's style is very creepy. It's like mixing real-life faces into the cartoon world. The human faces and bodies are all gray, but everything else is in color. So many people have commented on the show's style saying it creeped them out or gave them nightmares. And I can see why. Just the way that the characters move their lips and eyes are just, it's so creepy. And the opening theme song does not help their case. During this song, you see Angela sabotaging her rival and ends up dropping a heavy stage curtain on her. Angela is not a nice girl. She definitely has a dark side.
Up next, we have Caillou. He's this like bratty kid who has tantrums and he's never nice to his sister, and he stomps his way to number 9. Caillou's bratty behavior has a lot of parents upset because it's teaching kids that they can cry, throw tantrums to get what they want. Because he does it. Because of all the complaints, the show was short-lived, only having 5 seasons, going off air in 2004. Another cartoon that has the wrong message for children is a show called Max and Ruby. And they keep things a secret. And at number 8. Max, who's the younger brother, he's always getting into mischief, and his sister always has to like cover for him and get him out of trouble. And this shows children that they can just get away with anything and everything. And they are never under parental supervision, and they never tell their parents what happened that day. They lie about it. Again, teaching kids that if something bad happens, you shouldn't tell your parents about it. And at number 7, we have Johnny Bravo, a really cool dude.
Sassy. Man, I'm pretty.
but very inappropriate. This is one show you have to look back and you realize how just inappropriate it actually is. But the show for some reason was for you guys to watch as a kid, and me too. Johnny Bravo is a show about a womanizer who is constantly making sexual innuendos.
Hey, Babarella, that's a pretty eensy-weensy, teeny-weeny polka dot thingy you got going there. Wanna do the monkey with me?
There was a lot of hidden jokes in the show as well. Johnny Bravo can be very offensive and refuses to learn anything from how people react to his behavior. Our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they seem innocent, but not on this list, and they make their way into number 6. The original cartoon has been around since the 80s. There is a lot of violence which entices children to imitate the fight. The show also causes children to overindulge in eating pizza, which promotes overeating and increases the risk for obesity among children. So you guys are probably like, oh my god, Landon, why are you being so stupid? Just if I watch this show, it's gonna make me eat pizza? No. Well, there was actually statistics proving that once this show aired, pizza sales went sky high. So yes, it's true. And the show is actually pretty violent as well. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles uses weapons to fight, encourages kids to pick up sticks, even knives to fight. Okay, there's so many parents complaining about the next one, and right now we're in at number 5, and we're talking about the cartoon Tom and Jerry. This is one of the oldest cartoons on this list. The original show was released from 1940 and stopped running in 1967, in which, isn't that the last year the Leafs won the Stanley Cup? Has it been that long? So the show is just 6 to 10 minutes long, and it has 2 main characters, which is a cat and mouse. They go after each other trying to kill one another. They have knives and guns. There's a lot of controversy around the show as well. Tom and Jerry featured a lot of racial stereotypes. The black characters in the show would have like large lips and bow-tied hair. There was a poor black maid character who spoke with an accent which they thought this is how you represent a black person's accent. Okay, where are we? Oh yeah, we're in at number 4 right now. We have Scooby-Doo. Where are you? Scooby? The cartoon ran from 1969 to 1971. It was really short-lived, and it was about a group of teenage friends and their Great Dane Scooby trying to solve mysteries. But this displays a bad influence for children. Why? Well, the show portrays a group of teenagers that breaks into buildings and abandoned houses in order to track down and eliminate ghosts. It teaches children that it is okay to trespass and meddle around in private property, which causes kids to believe that there would be no consequences for their action because, you know, the group never gets in trouble. But if this happened in real life, you're breaking in someone's home, you're probably going to jail. Now at number 3, let's get serious here. We have The Simpsons. And The Simpsons, oh man, this thing can get very inappropriate. So this is actually one of my favorite cartoons growing up. My fiance, she wasn't allowed to watch it for many obvious reasons. Now that I watch the show, like, I understand the inappropriate jokes, but as a kid, I don't know why it's for kids. They address topics that's too mature for kids, such as sex and religion. This is a still ongoing TV show and it's been running since 1989. It is successful, but there should be an age restriction on it. When the movie came out, the movie was actually rated PG-13, which is questioned to why isn't the TV show rated PG-13 as well. So the movie starts off with Bart Simpson's penis shown in like different ways. He constantly harasses his sister. The Simpsons has a ton of violence. One scene had Homer Simpson fighting the 41st president of the United States, George Bush Sr. Okay, what is worse than The Simpsons? Family Guy. Seth MacFarlane is one funny guy, but very inappropriate. And this comes into our list at number 2. This is a show that banks on humor, but this type of humor is not appropriate for children. This cartoon discusses politics, race, religion, and also portrays vulgar scenes, and the language is also very offensive. The American animated sitcom has been the target of numerous complaints concerning taste and indecency. And there's also a lot of scenes that suggest sex.
18, you're first.
Mom!
I like where this is going. Giggity, giggity, giggity.
Finally, we've all made it into number 1 spot. What is the worst? Well, you guys have to wait because let's quickly recap everything we've had so far. We've had Caillou, who is bratty, gets his own way. Scooby-Doo and the gang breaks into houses all the time. We have The Simpsons, who addresses a lot of inappropriate topics. And finally, in at number 1, something that should be filtered but is not filtered, South Park. This was a show I wasn't allowed to watch, and my parents weren't too strict, but damn.
Mom, I'm into this movie. I'm not going to bed right now. Chillax.
You most certainly are, right now, mister.
I will go to bed when this movie is over, Mom.
This show has constant swearing, graphic violence, drugs, explicit sexual activity, and much more.